down to the Queen's Head and the group waiting. I said we could wait here because people are walking along the road and they can see us here as well. But welcome everybody. It's a lovely morning for our walk. I'm sure you'll find it interesting, and thank you for coming along. Just 1 or 2 points. I think the road, the lane, not going to walk on any muddy footpaths at all. And as you know, Hensting Lane is a long lane, but part of it ends up in Otterbury. That's a different patch to Colden Common, so not to venture into Otterbury's territory. I think there could be a few little lorries or maybe horses along the lane, so take care. But we won't stop in the lane itself, we'll stop in a little lay-by or just off the lane to have a few words. But anybody wants to make any little sort of comments or tips? I think sure John's got a few points to make. Can you please do? I said that we're a little hamlet here called Foulis Court. As we know before, Colden Common is not only Colden Common in the triangle, the little hamlets. They've got Groundbridge, Highbridge, Foulis Court and Hensting Lane. And you may have noticed there's a sign for Foulis Court now, like the one at Groundbridge along the main road. Another sign along to Fair Road and along the Bishop's Walton Road saying this is Foulis Court. It lies in the clay of the Hampshire Basin. The Queen's Head Inn is the oldest pub in the parish. It's on Portsmouth Road, and it appears on the Tithe Map Survey in 1841 with a pondside cottage and a Tall Cottage next to it. On the other side is a court called Foulis Court. It's got a lodge and a cottage, and it's built in the late 19th century by Mr Monro. You can't actually see Foulis Court at the moment, but in the past it's been used for many uses. I think a private school, a nursery, and flats now. Just opposite us, you see the little gatekeeper's cottage. It's in the old tradition. I think the cottage for the gardener has been renovated now. I see some work being done onto it. When you walk along Hensting Lane and past the row of houses, there's a little lay-by on the side, about a couple of 100 yards. Then we'll have another little talk and view the lake.
Before we get to that lay-by, the first house you pass on the right as you go down is called the Houseboat. It's a very nice modern wooden cottage, but it's called the Houseboat because if you walked down here in past years and seen a little wooden, what you thought was a little wooden shed, that was actually part of a houseboat. It was half submerged and it was lived in for a very long time, right up until they built the new cottage.
That was built by the man who owns the fishery here now.
It was built by his daughter,
right.
Victoria, and her husband, and they still live there.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's that little
like an outlet for
Car coming behind. Car coming behind left.
And I ran up to check.
Well, I'm sure that's George Axton's roller.
Who?
George Axton, he owns the fruit and vegetable wholesalers.
What are we looking at?
I was saying that the roller in the car.
Size of it.
It's a lovely house.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a beautiful property.
If
you don't mind mosquitoes in the summer evening.
Yeah, we were
Which is that one that just been sold?
She's got the camera person of the year.
I've always wanted to work for the BBC.
It's sort of the community.
Jill carried on down because she wanted to know why we were walking down here, because of course...
We stop here and go back and talk about the it's a little network of footpaths in Colden Common. At the end of the lane here, you see a sign saying footpath, which leads to the main road. And in the springtime, there's lots of wood anemones and bluebells. There's a lovely walk. It can get a little bit muddy though. It's very, and you often see, if you go there, you may see deer and all kinds of other sort of animals. Along here, this path peters out, it ends up in Marwell, but gets a bit muddy, it's a bridleway, lots of clay, maybe reasonable at this time here.
Can I also say, right at the end of that bridle path, there is a field which is being maintained as a wildlife meadow, and any time you walk up there and go in, walk across the meadow, it's just teeming with wildflowers, wild plants, wildlife, birds, butterflies, insects, and I take my grandchildren up there and it's really great. They just spend ages looking for things.
Is that the one being done by Marwell?
Yes, yes. But it is open to the public.
As you walk up the footpath there, probably 200-300 yards up there on the right hand side, if you look carefully, you see the foundations of where there used to be two little cottages up there, which I think it's on the 1861 and 1871 census, they actually show up. So, but they've obviously long been derelict and fallen down. So.
Was there ever a road which joined the main Bishop's Waltham Road?
Actually, Thompson's Lane, which is what this lane is called, actually, if you set your sat-nav to Hensting Lane, to our postcode, directs you to Thompson's Lane.
I used to have my office in Swift Farm here. We often used to get Danish lorries coming over and Dutch lorries. They'd have their sat-nav on to get to the installation place over the other side of Marwell. And they used to come in here and of course get to the farmyard and wonder why the road had run out.
Yeah, the sat-nav still shows Thompson's Lane as a road.
Now, what I was wondering was, they had a house rebuilt earlier last year, and one of the electricians that came was telling us a story about his friend who had been given permission to shoot at night on the land which is fairly adjacent or towards where Marwell House is, not Marwell Hall, Marwell House on the Bishop's Waltham Road. And I was looking at the lanes to see if there was had been a possibility of the lane continuing straight down to the to Marwell House, because while this guy was shooting at night, they were up a tree just waiting, and they could hear the sound of a horse and cart with bells, and there was absolutely nothing there was no road there, so they shone the torch and it stopped, and they talked to the lady who'd given them permission, who owned it, and she said, well, there is a rumour that it's the ghosts of the monks or something. So apparently this guy won't go back and shoot there anymore.
Originally, although the ponds, the configuration is 7 over there now, followed by 2 here, and this is the biggest one. Originally, there were 3 ponds which came down in ever-increasing sizes from Marwell, and the fish, at the moment, the fish go from being bred in here, and then they go into the little ponds, this pond, and then that one, and then they go out of county for their 4th year, and then they're sold to fisheries. The monk's fish used to go in the little pond to be bred, and then it would be gradually moved up, and once it got to Fisher's Pond, then they'd be harvested and deposited in ponds around the area, so that everybody had access to fish on a Friday.
I was going to say, are there any Friday ponds in the area? There's one in St Cross, isn't there?
A lot. Fisher's Pond is one. There's one up on the Portsmouth Road. There is a pond further up here still, but it's not one of the originals. It actually, Swiss Farm was farmed as a veal farm at one time, And that is the old slurry pit, which is very full of nutrients now and has got masses of fish in it, if you could see it.
There's if you go back to the main road, go towards Fair Road, just before you go up the hill, if you look at out on the left hand side, the field has got a dike all the way around it. Apparently there used to be a Roman fish farm in there.
You're looking very well, that Agnes. Yeah, not quite sure about the fate that they mentioned at the end. Not quite sure who is next or the school.
Don't pull a funny face.
Another car from behind.
More money than that on it, but because it's been so bare, you know, it was always bare once.
That's the east hill. Yes. Get across the hill on a bike. Without windshield.
know your neighbours very well.
We're going to have to talk about my image rights, I think, on stage.
Do you want makeup? Makeup! Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I've gone to Portsmouth 20 minutes ago. Of course you didn't know we'd gone there. Where did you park?
Walking along Hensting Lane, we're coming to the little hamlet of Hensting. Hensting lies on the chalk. We said Fisher's Pond lies on the clay, and there are many springs coming up, especially in wet weather. In springtime, this is one of the sites of national importance or local importance. Information leaflet. Round here, this is Toads Crossing. The toads go from one side of the road to in early springtime when it's damp to this side of the road. And sometimes, if there are lots of toads, I think there's a little group here called Toad Watch, and they collect the toads or help them across at night time. And it varies from year to year, and sometimes a little sign saying permissible toads crossing. I think Maureen can tell us more about a few winters ago when we had so much rain and the road was flooded. You may have heard Hensting Lane was closed, but Maureen can tell you what it was like for people who actually lived in Hensting Lane at that difficult time. Do you want to say a few words, Maureen?
Yes, you're talking about when Hensting was completely flooded. I can't remember the exact year, though I think I did write it down. And it was so flooded that for 6 months they couldn't use their toilets. The drain water was contaminating the drinking water. This lane, when it does flood, it can be ankle deep over your boots as it comes down, and then it comes down into here, and eventually it goes into this spring, and then it joins up with the river at Bishopstoke, goes right across and joins there. But it was absolutely horrific for the people who lived in Hensting. Everything was contaminated, and at that point Hampshire County Council dug deep ditches which the inhabitants are supposed to maintain, and I think some of them do and some of them don't. But this last winter again, it was exactly the same problem, but the ditches held the water. But at one point, the water was 8 inches deep in Hensting. It was a foot deep at Hensting Farm. And anybody who had any business down here just had to leave their cars up this end and wade through in Wellingtons. It just wasn't passable.
Thank you, Maureen. We're going to carry along the lane to Hensting riding stables, and we'll have another little stop there.
Do we know what the Hensting means?
I was looking at the origin of that. I think it's some Anglo-Saxon word coming down there. I don't know if it's the name of a tribe or a chief there.
Certainly it's got that Anglo-Saxon feel to it.
Yes, it could be the name of Hensting or something, an Anglo-Saxon warlord or local chief.
No, I think that they've got less and less, and maybe their inbuilt sense of direction for reaching their old breeding grounds is gradually dying out, maybe, as the land starts returning. It's quite bad again.
there as well. Some of them shower upon the borders.
He was saying the other day, what would I do in the winter if I was retired? In the summer, people was flying and we
Got lots to do.
But in the winter, there's not that much.
Just smart girls.
And we had an awful lot of work to do.
Go up there, across the field, diagonally. But the common,
earlier on, but from on the back of the
oh yes.
sorry.
Again, you see the sign saying footpath.
Just for a short time. Oh, do you? Oh, I've done that as well. For a short time.
I'm always thinking about this because I took a year to do.
Oh, really? Do you enjoy it?
In retrospect, I think.
I know. I have to say. Well, I don't. No, it's going to work as a reception.
I'm not sure
for
how many
only about 18 months when we very first came.
or Tony, the riding therapy centre, has a little network of stables and barns. It's all well kept, the establishment here. I think for disabled children as well, I've seen them walking.
There's more traffic
Coming out of the stable block there, and you can see how busy, I didn't realise how busy the little courtyard is, full of horses and people. Across the lane is called Kennel Farm House. It was built about 1670. The Boys family lived here for many years. There's a gentleman called John Boys the Elder, who died in 1817, and his son John in 1856, aged 74. John's son William was involved in the agricultural riots around here. He was tried at Winchester but was acquitted. Kennel Farm House was then owned by the Hall family, who farmed here until 1958. They were a sect called the Plymouth Brethren, and they had one room of the house converted to a chapel. It's quite attractive with the beams and the chimney, and it's quite extensively garden now.
Just say a few points. Both John and William, two brothers, were tried for conversion from the Singway. They were both acquitted in the Great Hall in Winchester for special sizes of the chapel. But then, because they were educated, they wanted to make an example. John was taken to Guildford, and he was found guilty and deported to Australia for 7 years. But eventually, the Duke of Wellington got involved before the Duke of Wellington became Prime Minister, and he managed to get a royal pardon for him, and he came back, so that's why he died here in 1871. So the family had both Kennels Farm and Hensting Farm.
And there's a boys' farm up in Colden.
That's my great-great-grandfather, Benjamin Boys, had that.
And it's Boys Lane, was that leading?
Yes,
So presumably
well that was my grandfather's. My grandfather used to own a farm. He used to own everything from Church Lane to Dublin Yard.
I don't know who owns Kennel Farm House now, but it's kept up lovely in very good condition. And the
It's a beautiful building.
Kennel Farm's actually got 40 acres of, they own the 40 acres of woodland behind it.
When it was in the Boys' family, they were carpenters there on the farm.
Right. Where does the big blue crown? Yeah, you can get to us.
I didn't recognise you. I recognise you. That's an interesting sign that free-range children and animals. How do you get free-range children? Let me take a quick video. That's a good one. Let me take.
We used to book his funeral. Go. Yeah, we used to go. The doors are dark.
Let's have a walk around the garden. David,
Yes.
would you like to say a few words about the history?
Well, only.
Because I should forget to
That's okay. Well, the village record shows I got grandma says 400 years old. That's the original part up to the corner there, and the chimney. That was originally the back wall. And then the extension beyond it is still only added about 35 years ago. And the porch is an addition as well. We think that was probably a front door. On the other side, there's a sort of a single-storey piece of it, as far as you see. It's reputedly a dairy where they kept a cow, but I'm not quite sure how true that is. It must have been a pretty small cow. The dairy guy who lives next door in the modern bungalow knows something of the history. Her grandfather lived here, and she can remember visiting him in the house. And the guys also lived in the Monk House, which is about 3 doors further on, just before the corner, which used to be
be a malt house and a village shop at one time. That's about all we know about it, really. The well is an original, obviously, presumably still a working well. When we came here, there was a big 1.5-inch cast iron pipe that went from up the well, under the floor, and came out in the kitchen somewhere. The kitchen end had been disconnected. The pipe in the well was still there. It's about 6 metres deep to the bottom. It opens up below this area. In the winters, of course, it fills right up and actually overflows to a new overflow out into the ditch. Some of you who saw Hensting Lane this winter will remember what it was like. And it was about 9 inches deep in water. And the well was overflowing. That's how we know how high the groundwater is getting. You can look in the well. And in the summer it can empty completely. Although this year there's still water in it, but it's about 4 metres down. I think. Somebody's relation, elderly relation.
So that little blue door was the original front door, they think.
Moved down to bottom of Reef.
Very wide at the bottom.
And I just think how long ago that was.
Unfortunately, it needs new batteries. It's only working on the lower level.
It stands back 30 years.
Well, no, the people before us were out here. 6 or 8 years ago, we young couple.
Sorry, did you want to borrow a
And
top?
they moved to Swindon.
It's not very bright, I'm afraid.
We've got some deeds.
It's a long way down. Yeah, it's a long way down.
Dated
Yeah.
about
You
1910.
can try it, it might work. Can you see
I can see it without the light.
No, happily. Well, 12 years ago, 2000, 2001, we were in the village centre.
In the compound. Yeah.
Well, we had actually water got into the house. Not intentionally.
You're looking to keep this cottage.
Chicken one, stop birds.
And down the lane.
Angela met up with you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yes, I know.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm alright.
Yeah.
Did you relax?
4 years and you're still in remission.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm alright, yeah.
Angela had cancer on the side of his face, which actually went through the shed.
There used to be an old boy called Maury guy lived up there. He only had one ear, and he was obviously part of the family.
It's obviously a local family, isn't it?
In those days, you didn't sort of worry about the family history, you know.
Yes.
I wish I'd gone and spoken to him when I was a teenager.
Yes. I mean, Mary's actually not Mary Guy, of course, because she married an Arthur Timms.
Yeah.
But her mother was there before.
If there are no graves earlier than 1712, did you say?
No, there's identifiable graves back to 1712.
Could you ask where people were buried before that?
Well, no, the churchyard is much older, but the graves have just, in fact, when I first went up there as a boy, looking at the graves, and you could, sort of 50 years ago, 60 years ago, you could read them much easier than you can now because pollution has gradually eroded the stones. So it's a problem in graveyards. Luckily they were chiseled, so you can sort of rub them across and you can find the names on the gravestones. But there's a website, I think it's stmarystwyford.net or something of that nature, and it's got all the Twyford church records, which covered Osserbury, Morstead. And we go back right to sort of going 1700 on. All the births, deaths and christenings, burials, whatever, on the website. It's quite useful because it's both, it's on there twice chronologically and also alphabetically.
Presumably, once that religious group in America, they seem to have got all the Mormons,
Yeah.
We're just going to go up to the top.
The thing is, you can go and ask them for information.
Take them as far as Hensting Farm.
That's a good website. It's got a website. Yeah, that's free.
That's the farms of the market.
You don't have to.
Sorry, I'm trying to say. And came back and lived at 34. So I'm glad you had a nice
And the exactly the same from the best friend.
We're more visible.
What on earth are you going to do with all this film?
No idea. It's for future generations.
That was a nice little opportunity to visit the thatched cottage. I think apparently Maureen had contacted the lady the night before, and she was waiting for our arrival to come round.
Thank you, Maureen.
And while we're at the thatched cottage, you may notice a little stream of children with their helmets and their ponies, and so taking riding therapy centre. It must be quite a busy ride, and I saw little minibuses coming from the Friars Court School.
There weren't all children riding back. One was an elderly lady.
Yeah.
One there was an elderly lady riding back on the horse.
It's a nice.
Just to add to what Paul's told you about the riding stables, they originally started as a therapy stables, but it was for people with and children with diabetes, because one of the owners was diabetic, and the theory was that if the children came in to ride and they looked after their ponies, it gave them a respect for looking after themselves and their diets and so on. So that's how that riding stables, therapy stables originally started, but of course now they do take disabled children, disabled people, as well as just give ordinary riding lessons.
Earlier on in the year, we went to a house called the Malt House along Main Road by kind invitation of Michael and Jean Blackstaff. Many villages had their own little brewery called Malt Houses before the licensing trade was involved. And this is the one for Hensting here, the Malt House. Apparently, there's no cellar to be seen in this house, but there's another legend here of a tunnel going to Marwell Manor, but no evidence of it has been found. As you see, the character of the house with the tiles and the bricks and the cottage garden and the wisteria is very in keeping. But I don't know who owns it now. I see it's up for sale.
What would you think that? What sort of year?
I must be at least 200 years old, I would think, by the fabric of it, by the tiles. Maybe there's an addition at the back. Maybe.
Could be new. All the buildings, a lot of buildings in Hensting, everything was either a farm cottage or it belonged to Marwell.
We'll just go up to the court. Oh, we just wait for our next group to go by. I think this is our last stop. As somebody mentioned, why the lane, Hensting Lane, carries straight on, but why does the lane turn round here? Maybe some land ownership in the past, I'm not quite sure. The boundary of Colden Common, I think, is at the end of the corner over in the far right, and there's another network of paths.
Paul, the two cottages beyond Hensting Farm, they are the last houses in Colden Common. They are officially in the parish of Colden Common.
Yes, and we go into parish of Osselbury. Again, there a network of lanes going across to Marwell.
No, you don't tell me. You get stuff. Yeah. Carry on.
And it's a lovely, if you're so inclined, can walk right along the lane up to Osselbury. In the middle distance, you see there's a large tithe barn. I'm not sure of its origins. It's quite long. It's about 30 yards long. It may be something to do with Marwell Manor and the monks, where they had to have a tithe, a tenth of the produce came to the owners of the land. And it's a listed building. I think the records office in Winchester have it open at certain times. Here you've got an older post box. I think it's still in use, though in need of Monday to Friday.
He hasn't changed the plate. It's not that. It's Elizabeth II.
Yeah.
It's not Edward.
Yeah. And most of these cottages were for the workers on the Marwell Estate. I think that was a farm on its own. Was it Maureen?
An elm farm.
Yeah, elm farm.
I don't. I'm not. It shows up on the census during the 19th century.
Do you know anything about the family called the Hensting family? And apparently, according to my notes here, he sort of made coffins and headstones until the late 1990s and early 2000, until about a few years.
Well, when I moved in 1996, I used to live up here. One of the family who would still be working in this field and shed, chiseling out headstones. Yeah. No, I don't think so. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's a long time since I've been down here, but he was still working at that point. And the Hensting family, this bit here, there was a very definite lay-by here, and it's only recently the farmer who bought this land decided that it was his property and has filled it in. But the Hensting used to have many cottage industries going on here, one of which was calling up pig swirl, and another was they had a hand-operated sawmill and would saw wood for kindling and what have you for people. And apparently just used to come down with their carts and just stop here and pick up what they wanted. Henstridge. Yes. Did you want them to stay at ours the night before? I think so too.
I think coming back to Elm Farm, I'm not sure one of our former parish councillors, Joe and Happy, live in Elm Farm. I think Maureen has arranged for further interest in Fisher's Pond pub on the way back. They've got a little plaque, a history information board by their front door, and she's kindly asked the manager and say we can look in on and read the plaque there.
And we can go and see Fisher's Pond from a different angle from my garden.
Yeah, shall we?
And the other thing I wanted to say was up this lane there are other farm buildings, and there was apparently during the war there used to be a lot of aeroplanes coming over here, shooting their way over to Southampton, and there are still bullet holes in the barn walls from the aeroplanes. If you wanted to walk up far enough on another occasion, you can find the barn and you can see the bullet holes still.
So on the way back, going your house on the way back, Maureen will show us where she lives on the way back, and kindly have a near view of the Lake and Fisher's Pond. Come to say hello to us.
Oh, you've been there for the lap, so I didn't realise there was a post office.
I think it's a good idea to get off the road. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going round to the right-hand side. It's just a sort of single bay, down to the lake. The land here is reed bed clay, which is a step down or up from London clay. Like they were saying with the ponds, the subsurface is blue, solid, impenetrable clay. And I guess everybody's had a lot of topsoil put in, but also you can see chips, you know, slates, which I'm told is because a glacier finished in this area thousands and thousands, millions of years ago, and deposited these. I mean, everywhere you dig, there are these stones. So if you follow me, we're going around the right-hand side of the building, and then you feel free to go down and have a look at the lake from a different angle. How long have you lived here, Maureen? 1996. Oh, right.
For 50 years. Not since I was a teenager. No.
And hands is hands the measurement from literally a hand, the shoulder length, and the measurement a hand is 4 inches.
Right opposite here,
They said it might be
where the water comes in. Yes, that's mine. Children aren't allowed unless they're very gentle. That's my chair.
What goes up on the trapeze? There's a trapeze handing me down in the front for you.
That's the footrest.
You were saying about timberberry trees.
Yeah.
The wood of timberberry trees was used for something, wasn't it? But I can't remember what. It might even have been sprinkled. Was it? It might well. Yeah. But, you know,
It's fairly hard and straight grained, I suppose.
Yeah, this tree is an example of how oaks suddenly keel over and die. This trunk was an oak. And it sort of over about 5 years it started to go, and then boom, it went. And this one is actually filled with concrete to keep it up.
Excuse me. We've got a crow in there that's still alive. It's blinking.
Oh, I have to put the camera down. Poor little It would be kind of difficult.
It's probably a rook, isn't it? Small rook. No, it's alive. I assumed it was dead, and I saw a flash of it fly. More carefully. You've got yourself in there, haven't you?
I've got a knot.
I think Warren's got some scissors or something.
I think you'd be trespassing.
Signets. Spell danger.
Hello, my gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that wasn't. I don't usually like
I'm not sure of the lady's name, but she's coming with a pair of scissors.
Maureen, yeah.
Maureen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You should have more sense than to put this up here. I didn't know it was here.
All these people will come and none of us have bought any grain for you.
Oh yeah.
Get his feet out. There we go.
There's only some grain left on there.
That's caught around their porch, you see.
They're first and not thinking there's another thing.
No, I think we need to be able to pull it for David. So
Oh, he's feeling better. Yes, he's followed some.
it's round his tongue, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Trouble is, if you cut it,
if you cut it, we won't be able to pull it out.
mind you, would he spit it out?
It's right round his tongue.
It is, isn't it? Oh dear. Let's see if I can. Let's see if we can just. Well done. Just leave him quietly, see if he.
What do you think?
Thanks very much for when I go and make a move.
I managed to come and do it. When I first put my hand into it,
We've got something you could give it, some water.
and then see what you mean. That's it, I'm doing it. And it's stopped and sits in a magnet.
For years and years and years, we go to Scotland and Wales and Aberdeen, and there's a seagull there. There's years ago they had on the seagull called something, they've got one leg. And this seagull had no fear of people. Right. And it was this man, and this seagull, all these years later, recognises this chap and goes for him every time. No, he knows of him. He did something horrible to him. I don't think he's going to survive.
I mean, years ago when we were still in South Africa.
No, you don't.
Coming by. Give the hand.
He also used to have
And the garage as well.
Benny Hill's character, Fred Scull, who was he also was an amalgam of Ernie Hill as uncle, because he looked like Fred Scull does, and at the other end of the village there's a house, Woodlands I think it's called, and there was a guy called Ernie Matley who lived there, who had a milk ground in Eastleigh, and he always used to wear a cap off to one side, and we always reckon it was an amalgam of the two, because Benny Hill was a milkman for Hans Dairy in Eastleigh.
Anyway, so keep a look out for the next walk. Hopefully there'll be another one.
Thank you very much.
And the weather was kind to us anyway. If you want to do more walking, I'll just say thank you to Maureen for inviting.
Well, she's quite worried about this.
How's the crow? Is it?
One in much so like
The Ernie Matley and the rest, because we're very much close to
She's feeding.
Lord, oh yeah. Don't call me Lord.
Oh.
Loads of coffins when we were away, and it never went to Old Thorns, and it never take that. It's not that, no. I'll do it. You do it another time.
No. It wasn't as much as that.
Cheers. Thank you.